What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are going to compare a Jet City JCA50H with the SLO mod to the Overdrive channel to the SLO, the real deal. Let's do it. Hope you guys are doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take awesome high gain amps, overdrives, guitars, cabs, speakers, pickups. I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes who don't have time to think of a witty intro line, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on your way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks. All right guys, I'm knocking out another comparison for the SLO100 today since this is the very last day that I will own this amp, for a little while at least. And I really want to give you guys all the comparisons that you asked for. So today we're comparing it against a Jet City JCA50H, which has had the SLO mod done to the Overdrive channel. If you guys are not familiar with the Jet City stuff, this is an amp line that was designed by Mike Soldano and distributed here in the USA, but they were built in China. Now the stock amp's voicing is a little bit more close to, like, say, a Hot Rod 50 versus the SLO100. It's a little brighter, it's a little bit gainier, a little less MIDI, so there are only really a few tweaks that you have to do to these amps to get them to match the SLO100 circuit. Now, of course, it goes without saying, yes, this is the 50-watt model, so there are going to be some inherent differences in the power amp just due to the size of the power amp in the Jet City, but guess what? This is the only one that I have, so I am mainly just going to be kind of comparing the preamp sounds as much as I can. For you guys here, we're loud in the room, but we're not super loud, so neither of these power sections are really going to be pushed to their potential, I guess you could say. And I've also had the depth mod done on the Jet City because these amps do not come stock with the depth mod unless you get the 100 HDM model. So with all that being said, that intro clip, I was using my Edwards ELP Custom with the Bill Kelleher Lace Dissonant Aggressor pickup in the bridge. I had my Deadwell Duality Overdrive on. We're gonna turn that off. We're going to quickly dial these in with the overdrives or the gain controls at 9 o'clock, and then all of the EQ controls will be at noon, including the presence and the depth on both amps. And we are gonna see how close we can get these amps to sound. Now, there is a huge price discrepancy between these amplifiers, guys. The Soldano SLO100 is like $4,400 new right now, I believe. The Jet City, I don't know that you can still get the 50-watt amps. You might be able to get them from Jet City Custom. I know that Doug is still selling at least the 20 and 22-watt models and the Amelia, but when these amps were brand new, I believe the 50-watt model was literally like $400 brand new. Like, they were super cheap. The 100-watt model was 500 bucks. They were just insanely cheap. And if you have yourself a good tech like I do, Mike Wagner at Wagner Amp Repair, shout out Mike, who performed the SLO mod on this amp for me, it really doesn't cost very much to get this circuit to be the same as the SLO100 circuit. So that's what I had him do. I had him perform the SLO100 mod, and now we're gonna see how much difference there is between the two amps. So we're gonna start on the Jet City, and then we're gonna move over to the SLO100. Starting off the bat with everything dialed as it is, there is very little difference. But again, most people are gonna be using these amps for much more high gain than we're playing with right now. But here's another riff and we'll start bumping that gain up. The SLO100, a little thicker, a little bit more in the lows and low mids. The Jet City has a little bit more high-end detail as I hear it, but otherwise very, very similar. So let's go ahead. We're gonna just get right to the gain on this thing. We're gonna bump these overdrives to about 11 o'clock, and let's see how they differ with the gains turned up a little bit. Okay, you can really hear it in the full chords, guys. There's a little bit more like harmonic content, a little bit more bloom to the SLO100 that the Jet City just doesn't have. That could be the transformers, it could be a number of things, but overall the voicings are incredibly similar, but it's like when you get really down into the fine nitty-gritty details, the SLO100 just kind of seems to have a little bit more going on than the Jet City. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bump the bass on the Jet City and the depth a little bit because it is kind of noticeably a little thinner, a little brighter in the room than the SLO100. So let's see how they compare after bumping the bass a little bit. All right, so now we have a good bit more low end, but we're gonna need to match that with the SLO100. There we go. I am also going to bump the presence on both of these amps to kind of pull the blanket off the speakers a little bit. Overall, I feel like the Jet City has a little bit more upper mid presence too, a little bit more bite to it. I have said the SLO100 is very smooth in the mids in previous videos. I actually don't feel like it sits in the mix quite as well as some other amps. It can tend to basically kind of fall behind just due to where the mids are placed. It depends on what the other person in the band is playing and the style of music and everything. Of course, for the 80s stuff, it does really well, but if you're playing something where you've got a really aggressive mid-range, especially if you've got another guitarist with say like a 5150, the SLO100, you really have to have the right cab, speakers, and pickups in order to make sure that it's able to compete with the 5150, whereas the Jet City kind of naturally, for whatever reason, has a little bit more mids as they're set up right now. So let's go ahead and get those gains bumped up again. We're gonna get them up to noon. We still have no overdrives on. Pretty much exactly what I said still rings true with the way that they're set up now. Let's get a little bit more mid, a little bit more treble on both amps and kind of open them up a little bit. A little bit more low end punch and just low end roundness on the Soldano. A little bit more upper mid bite on the Jet City, the way that we have them set here. I really don't want to do much to the Jet City. Maybe add some presence and a little bit more gain. We're gonna add some more gain to the SLO as well, and you can hear that noise coming through the speakers. But on the SLO, we really need to get that presence cooking in order to get some top end clarity out of this thing. just a little bit more clarity and everything going on with the SLO100. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna kick in a Boss SD1, and we're gonna see how these amps compare with the overdrive in front on. Like I said, I gotta keep these demos short and sweet if I wanna get through all of them, so these will be a little bit more abbreviated compared to my normal ones. Some might even be relieved for that. I'm actually gonna pull the gain back just a little bit on both of the amps to just above, right about 1 o'clock. So we're on the SLO with the SD1 on now. Wow, for some reason the JCA gets way, way brighter when you kick that in. Let's pull that presence back. Overall, very, very similar, guys, but the Soldano just has a little bit more harmonic content. Like I said, it's a little bit punchier in the lows, a little bit rounder and bigger in the lows, and it kind of has a little bit more low-mid emphasis. One thing that I have noticed about every amp that I have compared the SLO100 to, I compared it to my Mezza Barba M0 Overdrive, I compared it to my Avenger 100, and now the Jet City here. There is something going on in the low mids. It's kind of special about the Soldano SLO. It's got this grunt, this really nice kind of guttural sound to it that none of the other amps that are voiced similar, you know what I'm trying to say, that are voiced close to the SLO100, they just don't have it. It's really weird. It's like it's the only amp of the whole bunch that has that cool low mid grunt thing going on. Kind of reminds me of the rectifier low mids if I'm being honest, but there's a lot more clarity in the SLO100. So that's the one thing that this amp has that none of the other amps can kind of recreate. So it's cool. But anyways, here's one more tight thrash riff. We'll play a D standard riff, and then we'll get a guitar with actives and play one riff there, and we're gonna call it a day on this video. I'm gonna add some more lows to both of these amps real quick, especially the Jet City, because the Jet City is definitely leaner in the low end than the SLO. Man, they do sound extremely similar the way that they're set up here though. It's insane considering there's about a $4,000 price difference. So, all right, one riff here and then D standard. Starting on the SLO100. Man, the way that I have the SLO100 set up right now, it's got a ton of bark like to the midsection. It's such a good amp. It really is. I mean, if you're on the budget and you want to get close to that SLO100 tone, getting one of these and getting them modded and being into it for like 500 bucks or less, absolutely, all day long, makes total sense. There really isn't anything else out there that's gonna get you close to the Soldano sound that's anywhere near that price range. But the SLO100 is still the king. It's pretty obvious it's still the king. The similarities, how close they can get, it's crazy. In a recording, especially in a full band mix style recording with a lot of gain, you're probably gonna be tough to tell the differences, but the SLO100 really just kind of has that extra 10% that just takes it over the top as, you know, one of the greatest amps of all time. So I'm having a lot of fun. So let's go to D standard. All right, guys, final riff. We are on the Schecter SLS PT Elite with the Fishman Fluence Modern pickup. I have turned my overdrive off and we are in the active setting on these pickups. Alright guys, that is going to do it for me today on the SLO100 versus the SLO modded Jet City 50. What did you guys think? What did you hear on your end that I didn't hear here in the room? Always really curious to see what you guys think. Do you own either of these amps, and what is your experience with either, if you've owned or played either of them? Do you think the Jet City really compares, or is it no comparison? Let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to meet you guys down there to talk about it. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button on the way out, as it really helps me, and subscribe so you don't miss any more cool stuff like this. And if you want to support the channel and what it is I do here, down in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link. Click that link, get yourself something nice from the fine folks at Sweetwater. I get a little kickback, it costs you nothing extra, and it really helps me move forward with my channel. Or consider adding your name to this list of fantastic people by joining my Patreon community and supporting the channel that way. We got some pedal giveaways coming up and I'm really excited to do that, so make sure to join up if you want to get in on that. And as an added bonus, I'll love you forever, whether you want me to or not. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.